Ahead on Straight Talk.
I, Lauren Johnson.
Since August, Portland Fire and Rescue has been under the direction of a new chief.
Getting to take the time to learn about the department, learn about the things that they need and that are important to them.
We sit down with Laura Johnson as she goes from Portland outsider to assuming command of hundreds of first responders.
I think a lot of people are going to address her and talk to her like they feel like they've known her whole career.
We'll hear about her first few months at the agency, what she's learned, and what's next for the 172-year-old bureau. But first, it's almost Election Day.
Go to your local county elections and hear from them, your local county auditor.
We're joined by Washington Secretary of State Steve Hobbs to talk about threats to doing away with mail-in voting.
You can never have a real democracy with mail-in ballots.
And his take on Washington's private voter data and how his office is combating threats to election integrity. Right now on Straight Talk. Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Stephanie Domerat. Now, Washington voters are filling out ballots right now, and this year comes with new wrinkles, changes in USPS processing, renewed national tax on vote by mail, and an uptick in misinformation, including AI. Tonight, what's true, what's noise, and what you should do to make sure your ballot and your vote counts. Joining us to discuss this election is Washington Secretary of State Steve Hobbs. Hobbs is Washington's 16th Secretary of State, elected back in 2022. Before being appointed to the position, Hobbs served as the state senator for District 44. Hobbs is also an Army veteran, having served in Kosovo and Iraq. Secretary Hobbs, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. And I just want to take the time with your viewers. I apologize. I'm in a flannel shirt today, only because I'm actually on military duty in the Washington Army National Guard. I usually have an emergency suit available, but I forgot it. But I'm going flannel. This is the Pacific Northwest wear. This is to make you feel comfortable.
There we go. People love the flannel. Thank you so much, Secretary. Okay, well, first, the Postal Service made changes to mail processing and postmarking this year. So what should Washington voters do right now to make sure that their ballot counts, especially if they were planning to mail it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because the changes that happened in the U.S. Postal Service, we are asking the voters out there to actually put their ballot in the drop box at this particular time. There's just not that many days left, and there's a risk that it may not go to the processing center to get that postmark on it. So if you have your ballot right now, put it in a drop box. I'm going to do that this weekend. So that's my recommendation to the voters out there.
So typically you could get it postmarked day of Election Day and it would be okay. But in this case, it could end up being the next day. So just to make sure for voters to get those ballots to the box office or the drop box is instead, right?
Right. The other thing you could do if you want to go to the U.S. Postal Service, you can, but you're going to have to make sure that it's postmarked. The only way really to do that you'll be sure of is to actually go to your postal office, and they can stamp it right there, but you have to ask them.
Okay, thank you. Well, President Trump said in August that he wants to eliminate mail-in voting, calling it vulnerable to fraud. How secure are Washington's mail system and ballots right now, and what evidence do you point to about this?
Well, I mean, first of all, let me just address that. Trump saying that it's susceptible to fraud. I mean, he's a mail-in voter, so I hope that's not the case with his vote that he's doing. But here in Washington State, it is very secure. There's a lot of processes in place. We track the ballot going out and coming back in. We have audits that happen all the time. And if the viewers that don't believe all that, you can actually go down to your county auditor and see the process for yourself. Look at it, see it with your own eyes if you don't believe me.
What specific steps has Washington taken to address some people's concerns around mail-in voting? I know you said you could go down to your county office, but what are some other things that your office has done?
So this is stuff that has been around not just since I've taken office, but before. But we've done such a bad job of letting the voters know the process. So, for example, we're part of a database system. So if you were to move to another state, we would know about it. If you voted in the same election twice, we would know about it. We actually cache those. Also signatures as well. When sometimes you have people who sign for other people in the family, usually it's maybe a mom or a dad that's signing for their kid because their kid forgot to sign the ballot. we catch that, and that's why it's important that you sign your own ballot, and then of course put it in the drop box. If it's close to the election.
Yeah, signature matching, that's an important one, right? You've talked about that
Oh,
too.
absolutely. Yeah, and sometimes the signatures don't match, and you'll be notified, and you're going to have to cure what we call curing the ballot, which signing another form.
So this is the first general election that we've seen since the renewed national push to criticize mail-in voting. What do you want Washington voters to keep in mind as they return their ballots this week?
Well, first of all, if you have any questions, ask. Don't keep it to yourself. Don't take your information from social media. If you have any questions, reach out to your county auditor, reach out to the Secretary of State's office if you want, or just go down to your county auditor, check out the election center and see it with your own eyes. But there are a lot of procedures in place. There's audits happen before and after, and don't go into this thinking there's secrets on how we do elections. You can actually find it out for yourself.
What do you see as the biggest threat to election integrity right now?
I believe the biggest threat to election integrity is the doubt that some people have about our elections. And so that's why I stress over and over again, if you have any questions, just ask. I mean, all these things that we have already in process, like being part of ERIC, the Electronic Registration Information Center, or that we check every signature, or that we know when people pass away. These we kind of kept to ourselves because we took the process for granted. And that's why I think it's important that the voters know about this. And that's why our office over the last couple of years have changed the message. We've been really good about telling you when to vote, not very good about telling you the process. And we are changing that with, we've got a Mark the Ballot campaign with a cartoon character telling you the process. And so, look, again, if you have any questions, give us a call, give your county auditor a call.
Since being in office, I know you've called attention to the power of misinformation, really warning people about this, also AI in elections. What would you want people to keep in mind and know about that?
I would keep in mind that there's a lot of mis and disinformation that's out there. And also, we are dealing with nation state actors that purposely put out mis and disinformation. And so we talk about the SIFT method, and basically that's an acronym, SIFT. So stop. Right? Just pause for a moment when you see something on social media. Investigate the source. Do you even know who this person is that's posting this? Find better coverage. Go check out the other news media. See if they're talking about it, and trace to their original content. So read it. See what they're talking about. Don't repost things right away. And again, if you have any questions, we're just a phone call away. Not just me, the Secretary of State. And if you don't trust me because I'm a Democrat, go contact a Republican county auditor, and they'll tell you how the elections are being ran. We're a team in Washington State, Republicans, Democrats, and we're just trying to have a good, transparent, secure election.
Last year, we saw ballot drop boxes that were set on fire in Vancouver. They destroyed hundreds of ballots. What came out of those investigations that you know of, and what's being done since to avoid that from happening again?
Right. So now we are providing funding to the counties. I mean, we've always had, but now we're allowing the counties to do more with their funding in terms of the ballot boxes. And so not all the counties have this, but some counties have now started to use the funding to put sensors on their drop boxes. So if a drop box is moved or another explosive device is put in there, the county auditor will know about it and be able to react to it immediately. Also, we found that we had a really good response time when the ballot boxes blew up in Clark County. We were able to reach out to a lot of people so they could print out new ballots and to get their votes counted. And so we did learn a lot from that. Unfortunately, we still don't know who it is, but we are prepared if it happens again.
So the Justice Department announced last week it's sending election monitors to select jurisdictions in California and New Jersey for what they're calling ballot security. I wonder, what are your thoughts around that move?
I mean, it's an intrusion. Having the federal government going into another state and actually being there in the process of the elections being counted. But look, we want to work with our federal partners on transparent, secure elections. And we are prepared to do that. But again, we have a really good system in place here in Washington State. In fact, all the states really have good systems. It's just a little different depending on what state you go to. But yeah, it's disconcerting that the federal government is talking about sending people in to actually investigate, like be right there. But you know what? The way I see it is, it's another set of eyes. They can observe the election, and we'll have other citizens there who are observing the election as well.
So research shows that threats and harassment of election workers spike around election season and the time around elections. So what are you seeing in Washington right now? Have you seen anything like that?
Not yet, not during this election, but usually in the even years that does happen. Look, the election is going to be tomorrow, and usually the anger and anxiety happens after the election when we're counting the votes. And it is true that some of our election workers and our auditors get threatened. That's why in our state we passed a Class C felony if people are getting harassed. And look, don't get mad at the auditor for doing their job. If you have a problem, and I know I've beaten a dead horse because I talk about this all the time, just call your auditor. Just call the Secretary of State's office. We can tell you what's going on. You can see this with your own eyes. Don't blast the auditor because you don't know what's going on in elections. You can see for yourself, and we're more than happy to give you the information.
Well, good news, you haven't seen any of that this election cycle.
No, not this time. But, again, the federal elections will be, in the even years, and that's next year. So we are very concerned about that. We're concerned about nation state actors because clearly, Russia, China, extremist groups do sometimes try to put influencing operations in these elections with, mis and disinformation, especially the Russians. And so we are prepared for that, and cyber attacks as well. So we get constant cyber attacks, and we are prepared to defend them.
For anyone who hasn't voted yet or isn't registered to vote, I know in the odd years the turnout is lower. What would you like people to know who maybe are last minute registering, or what those deadlines would be if they'd like to jump into action now to have their votes count?
Hey, if you want to get your vote counted, then you need to fill out your ballot right now and put it in the drop box. And look, if you're not registered, you can go to your county auditor, register, and vote the same day, but you actually got to go to the auditor's office. And let me just stress this to all the people out there, because yes, it's always low turnout during these election years on odd years, but really it's the most important election because they're dealing with your city council, your mayor, a school board, a drainage district commissioner, a sewage district commissioner. These people affect your lives directly. Don't just leave it to chance on who's going to get elected. You need to take responsibility and vote and make your choices known.
Washington Secretary of State Steve Hobbs, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much.
When we come back, our Tim Gordon will join us for his interview with Portland's new fire chief. We'll be right back.
And welcome back to Straight Talk. In March, Portland Fire and Rescue Chief Ryan Gillespie retired. It marked the second chief retirement from the Bureau in less than 2 years. What followed was a nationwide search for his replacement before landing on the newest leader for the 172-year-old agency. Joining us now is Portland Fire and Rescue's 41st Fire Chief, Lauren Johnson. Johnson was officially sworn in as the new chief of Portland Fire and Rescue in August of this year. She is just the fourth woman to lead the department. Prior to her move, Johnson served 26 years with the fire department in Dallas, Texas. Chief Johnson, welcome to Straight Talk. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate you being here.
Sure.
So we've got questions for you. 26 years with Dallas Fire Rescue. Why'd you take the role in Portland?
I was really excited to look for a job where I could take the next step and become the fire chief. And there's only one job in every city that's actually the fire chief. So I knew I needed to start looking around. And when I saw that Portland had advertised that they would be hiring, I was really excited to learn more about the department. I was drawn to it pretty quickly. I mentioned earlier when we were just chatting that I was looking for a big city. And so Portland fit the bill for that, and it really checked so many boxes personally and professionally. I was interested in a big, busy department in a pretty part of the country, and so I was really excited to get the opportunity to come here.
Well, welcome, and you found those things, so that's great.
Yeah.
Sworn in August, what are your impressions so far? What stands out to you?
You know, it's been a really busy couple of months, I think even for Portland, by Portland standards. We've got great people on the Bureau, and I'm so thankful for having such a warm welcome. Everybody has been helpful and patient and willing to kind of go the extra mile when I needed extra explanation or background. So it's been a blast for me.
Yeah, you're coming in when we've had a few large fires too. I think we were just showing video of a huge apartment fire that you guys knocked down pretty quickly. That was a dramatic fire for sure.
Correct. I am so proud of the men and women in the department, their professionalism, their strength when it comes to performing during those kind of emergencies. They're amazing.
So the past few chiefs here have come up through the organization. You came from pretty far away in Texas. Yeah. What do you see? What's the difference that you see here maybe over Dallas?
Right. You know, some of the things that are different is really just the size. Dallas is almost twice the size of Portland, but that made it feel like it would be manageable to me. And so I was encouraged by that. At the same time, you know, we've got a much bigger wildland concern here. So when I'm thinking about strategies and tactics and really the conditions that our men and women are working in, there's some differences between what Dallas does and what Portland does. But then there are so many similarities that really made me feel comfortable in terms of just how to run a department and to serve in the different areas in a department. I had those experiences in Dallas, and it made me feel really ready to come here in Portland. But certainly not growing up in the organization means, for good and bad, that I don't have some of the baggage and some of the knowledge that's been here. So I ask questions about that, but at the same time, I think one advantage is just being able to come in with a fresh set of eyes, different ideas, different experiences, and I'm happy to bring that to the table.
Absolutely. And you said earlier, you know, anywhere you go, firefighters are firefighters.
That's right. That's right. That was one of the things that impressed me the most was whenever I would reach out and try to make a connection with a Portland firefighter, it really was the same as talking to somebody back home in Dallas, and I'm so thankful for that.
At the time of this recording on Thursday, the 30th of October, we're on day 28 of a government shutdown. While Portland Fire isn't directly funded by the federal government, are you seeing any impacts from the shutdown?
You know, not directly. I would say grant applications are something that impact us. We had made an application for a certain federal grant and haven't heard back. They had just started making notifications before the shutdown. We're still hopeful that that would come through. It would help us purchase some advanced medical equipment that we'd like to put on the rigs. So in terms of a direct impact, that's it. But certainly any time that our community is impacted by the potential for, you know, less access to food, medical care, things that they rely on in terms of federal benefits, we're concerned about how that's going to impact our community and ultimately, you know, may see a change in the demand for emergency services and that would have an impact on public safety and Portland Fire.
Any other federal policy changes affecting the Bureau that you can see? No,
we've been, like you mentioned, just relatively insulated.
That's a good thing.
It is.
Yeah, for sure. Although we could talk about a city budget, and I realize the Fire Bureau is probably a little more insulated from drastic cuts, but still affected, I'm sure, as you want to try and grow and do things for the community.
Absolutely. Budget is certainly a concern and top of mind. It's something that is a cycle that never ends. It's constantly on our mind. It's something at the administrative level across the city that we are working on. And it's important to me as a fire chief just to make sure that I'm a good partner and realize that you're right. A lot of times we do protect public safety bureaus from some of those drastic budget cuts, but then I still realize the impact that that has on other city departments and across the city as a whole.
Yeah, it's a big deficit for sure. So we realize you've only been here a few months, but initial impressions, what do you think is the biggest challenge the Bureau faces right now?
Yeah, so I think it's easy to see that it's finances, just making sure that the city is prepared to move forward and grow and recognizing that the Fire Bureau is just one piece that's impacted. But certainly our budget is really the biggest factor that determines how much we can grow, what pace we can make in terms of changes.
Portland Fires face significant challenges with overtime, staffing, and facilities as well, maintaining and growing. What do you see there? What's being done to fix those issues?
Sure. I would say, the pace of retirements often outpaces how quickly we can hire a firefighter, which is really just somebody that hasn't been fully trained, and then get them through our training academy and get them ready to be an EMT firefighter when they go out to the fire station. That training period often takes longer and sometimes doesn't keep up with the demand. And so one of the things that we're doing for 2026 is coming up with a new training plan, and that should improve the pipeline so that we're able to put out firefighter recruits in a faster pace than we have in the past. And we're doing that specifically because we expect more retirements to come in 2026 and even 2027 that we need to be ready for.
Does the Bureau need to grow? I mean, do we need more fire
Absolutely,
houses?
absolutely. So the calls for demand have continued to increase, and really the Bureau hasn't been able to keep pace with that demand, and is continuing to also find different ways to make sure that we're sending the right responder to each incident. And that might look like a change in our response models in the next couple of years, especially now that other city bureaus have come on with different responder options that may be a better fit for those people in our community who call.
All right, and that leads me right into this question about our fentanyl crisis here in Oregon.
Right.
Of course, we have rapid street response out there. You guys handle more major medical stuff. Obviously, respond to overdoses every day.
We do.
What challenges there in terms of, what do you see the role of Portland Fire and Rescue being there with our fentanyl crisis?
Right, so we've got a very small but mighty team that's called CHAT, and it's Community Health Assess and Treat, and they are very involved, not so much in the immediate response to an overdose, but in an aftercare capacity. And so we've got a special team that is able to provide medical treatment for people who are experiencing substance use disorders, who are going through withdrawals, and who want to be connected to treatment. I'm really proud of that team and can't wait to grow them because there's certainly a need. But that group also works with Portland Street Response and other city departments to try to address the fentanyl crisis, just in general drug use issues that we're seeing in the city, and be a resource for that community.
Right, and what you're talking about is so important, especially getting to folks before they're in big trouble and they're needing that emergency medical response, trying to get people help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got to ask you, I mean, what are you excited about for the future for the Fire Bureau? You just got here. I plan to have you as chief for a very long time. What are you excited about going forward here?
I'm really excited about the people in the department. I've been met with nothing but excitement about their future, how much they want to contribute to the Bureau, what projects they've got on the horizon, and I'm really excited to get to support them in those endeavors. I think there's a lot of room for growth in terms of making sure that we've got different teams that can, similar to CHAT, really meet the community where our needs are, as opposed to always sending the big fire engine, the big fire truck, all these firefighters to every incident. I'm excited about the ability to have a city that's open to innovation and trying new programs to make sure that we've got the best fit. And I think we've got the people that are ready to make those changes.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have for years obviously seen these huge trucks, ladder trucks even going out on a medical call.
Right.
And the more nimble we can be, the better, I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think we have a little bit of time left, and I just want to ask you, what are your impressions of Portland, of Oregon, coming from where you grew up in Dallas and spent the first part of your career here? You are. What do you like about the Pacific Northwest?
It's beautiful. The weather's been wonderful. The different access to the ocean, mountains. I couldn't get over how hilly and how green Portland was when I first visited. So we really feel spoiled in terms of how nature shows up here, and when we get out and take advantage of the time outside, it's been really wonderful.
Yeah. Well, welcome to you and your family. It's been a great conversation. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Tim and Chief Johnson, and thank you for joining us. A reminder, you can stream Straight Talk on your own schedule. You can download the free KGW Plus app, available now on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.